A runner's stride rate is the number of steps per second. The average stride rate of a top female and male runners are shown in the table below for various speeds. A. Let R be the average stride rate of a woman running at s feet per second. Find the regression equation to describe the data. And B. Let R be the average stride rate of a man running at s feet per second. Find the regression equation to describe the data. Okay, so this one I'm going to actually do purely calculator. That way you can learn to use your calculator. So we have a TI-83 screen, and for reference we're going to go through the basics and startups as well. So at the very bottom we have the on-off button, which you can turn on the very bottom left. Let's push it on. It turns on your calculator. Do remember that TI-83s and TI-84s are pretty similar. Once again, you have your number keypad down in the middle, and you have a decimal or a dot at the very bottom middle button, and right next to it you have a negative sign. There is a big difference between the negative sign and your subtraction sign, okay? So your calculator does not know the difference between a negative and a subtraction. Right next to it you have the enter button, and of course above it, above the enter sign, you have the plus, minus, or in other words subtraction I should say, times, and divide. Right above the division sign you have what we call the caret key, which allows you to put exponents. Right above the caret key we also have the clear button. Yep. And then we also have parentheses right next to your division sign. Open parentheses, close parentheses. You have the comma. You have an x squared on the left side there, top left of the 7, number 7. And right above that you have a square root labeled in yellow for my calculator. Yours could be a different color. Below that you have a log, 10 to the x, ln, e to the x as well. And you have some options for storing and memorization on your calculator, depending on what calculator you have though. Do notice, at the very, or close to the very top I should say, you have a second button. Mine's yellow labeled. So the second button works all the yellow labeling for my calculator. Okay, so something to be aware. Right below the second button there's an alpha button, which allows you to enter variables or letters. Well, typically we can't do variables because this calculator only knows a variable of x, which is right next to your alpha button. We're using the x as our variable. Notice it has x, t, theta, and n button, which is all the same, but for our purposes we're only using the x. Do notice right next to your x button there's a stat, which is also next to your arrow keypad technically. Right below your keypad there is a bars key, which we'll use eventually. Right next to the clear button essentially. Your arrow keypads allow you to also go up, down, left, or right depending on where and what menu you're at. At the very top you have graph menus. So you have a Y equals menu, window menu, zoom menu, trace, and graph. The second button gives you the labeling up above it. So second Y will give you a stop plot. So let's go second Y. And let's go for the initial setup. For the first plot, we're just going to hit enter and view that it's technically correct or set up the same. So you can turn it on and off from here, but we won't worry about it here. What we do care about is the fact that you have scattergrams, meaning you have dots. Dots is the type of graph we want, scattergrams. You have some other options for other classes though. XList. We have an XList label L1 and XList of L2. If we wanted to change that, we have the number keypads 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 that have L labels just above that. And you'll enter by hitting second and then the number you choose. But for this case, we're going to leave it alone the way it is. Marks. I have the squares. If you have a color calculator or other types, you're welcome to change the features as you feel needed. But for our case, we'll leave it as squares. I'll hit second, Y equals again. So second, Y equals will give us the stop plot options again. And I'll push down because I want to select option 2. So on option 2, I want to hit enter. And that way I can see the settings for plot 2. For plot 2, I won't worry about turning it on and off here. I'll do it later. I want to worry about having scattergrams again. So we have scattergrams, that is technically correct. And we want to go down to X list is L1, that is still correct. But for plot number 2, I want my L list to be L3. So I'll push second 3 and it'll give me L3. So second 3 will give me L3. I'll push down, and squares is the best choice for me, so I'll leave it as squares. And now my plot is set up. So I'll go to stats now. So push the stat button right next to your arrow keypad. And we want to edit it. So hit enter for edit. If you want to clear data, let's say you had some data randomly on there. To clear your data, we push up until we're at the very top of the list label. Push clear and down or enter. Go to the other list label that you want to get rid of or clear. Clear and down. Avoid hitting delete because that will get rid of your entire list label, okay? So watch out for that one. Okay, so let's label L1. Under L1, we want to be or have the speed. So let's enter the speed. We want to enter 15.86, 16.88, 17.5, 18.62. Let's see, 19.97, 21.06, and 22.11. I'll push my arrow keypad to the right, that way I'm at L2. L2, we want to enter the woman's stride rate, which is 3.05, and we hit enter each time. 3.12, with that enter, 3.17. 3.25, 3.36, 3.46, and 3.55. Now go to the right again. At L3, we're going to enter the man's stride rate. 2.92, 2.98, 3.03. Yep. One minor mistakes, we can push the right arrow and update it. 3.03. Okay. 3.11. 3.22. 3.31. 3.41. I'm going to do this just for reference, but let's say I enter by accident an additional number. We can see here that it's offset, so they're not aligned. So we can always correct it by going up and hitting delete. Okay, and then I'll correct it, but for now I'll leave it as wrong. We'll find out later on that I'm wrong, or that this is wrong. So I'll go to y equals, and I want to turn my plots on and off from here. So I'll go to the top by pushing up all the way to the top where it says plot 1, hit enter once, and push down so that you can verify it's on. Yep, it's highlighted. So that means it's on. I'll push up again. I'll go to the right now because I want to go to plot 2 where it's blinking. So I'll hit enter and push down. Now I can see both plot 1 and plot 2 are on. Now if I try to go to zoom, we'll do a zoom stat. You can push down or you can push up. Zoom stat is option number 9. So we can push option number 9 or press the number 9 and then it'll take us there. But it'll give me an error mismatch. I'll hit enter for quit. That means I have an error in my stat data. So I go to my stats, hit enter for edit, and I'll check my data to see if I have the right data. But remember here I accidentally, or purposely in this case, entered a wrong value or an extra value. That means I have an extra value because it's error mismatch. So delete that single one. Now it should be okay. I'll go to y equals again, try this again, stop plot 1, plot 2 are still on. I'll go to zoom and do a zoom option number 9, or scroll down to where it says number 9 and hit enter, which is the zoom stat, and that just zooms into the area where your graph is. So there now we have a graph. We can see the women's stride rate and men's stride rates. I can go to zoom and do a zoom in or zoom out depending on what I need. In this case I'll try zoom out to see if I can see my x and y axis. Nope, can't see them, so I hit enter again. And now I can see them. You can see that there's a graph somewhere there. So I'll go to zoom, and I try zoom box, option 1, hit enter or select number 1. I want to move my cursor. Can I see the cursor? Yep, I can see my cursor now. And I'll move it down to the bottom below after it crosses the x-axis somewhere. I want to see my first quadrant. I'll hit enter, and it's only once, and then I push up So you only want to hit enter once and then move up. So now we want to move to the right. Move to the right, now we can begin to see a box being formed. So there's our box. Now I'm going to zoom in sort of in that area. Now I'm probably going to move it a little bit lower. That way I see less of the area where I don't need anything or don't have any of my graph. I'll hit enter, and now I can see a little better. Oh, it's still kind of doubtable on what I can see, but for now I'll leave it there for reference. Okay. Let me go back to your zoom. That should give you a fair view of what we're talking about. Zoom. But let's go back to the zoom stat, option number 9. So you can push number 9. And it gives you just a zoom of the actual graph that we need for men and women's try rates. So let me go back to my main screen. I can hit clear or second, quit. Second mode gives us quit. So let's try second mode in this case. That takes to my main screen. It's cleared. I'll go to stats. And I want to calculate. So I go to calculate. So go to the right at the very top, calculate, and push down until you have linear regression or select option 4. For TI-84s, you may hit enter a few times until you get an equation. So TI-83 users, it automatically gives you basically your equation in the form of y equals ax plus b. If you have an r or r square or anything else, that's just statistical data. We don't need it for our particular case. But for this case, we need the a and the v value. This is telling us that the slope, or the a value, is 0.08 roughly, and the v value 1.76, well, 1.77 if we round it. But now we want to be able to enter into our calculator. So let's go to y equals, well, we still have it on our screen, y equals. And in y1, we want to enter it there. So go to bars. Bars is underneath your arrow keypad, right next to the clear button. So press bars. We want to go to statistics, option 5. So push option number 5 or go down to number 5 and hit enter. We want to go to EQ up at the right. So right once, twice gives you EQ. And we want reg EQ, option 1, hit enter. And that enters automatically your equation into your calculator. Do remember, if you're trying this for quiz or test, you want to copy it on your quiz or test and say, coming from calculator. Let's go down to Y2. So push down to go to Y2. And now, I'm going to go ahead and graph so I can see this graph first before I do that. There it goes. Now we can see the graph. Okay, that would be the women's try rates. Okay. If I go to second mode, gives me quit, main screen. Let's try clearing this. I want to calculate it again, so I'll go to stats, calculate, so go to the right. I want to do linear regression once again. Option 4, so you can push 4. Or go down to number 4 and hit enter. For TI-84s, where you see an L2, you're going to go down down to that one and select second 3 to give you an L3. For TI-83 users, what we want to do is hit second 1 gives you an L1, and now put a comma. Your comma is right next to your parentheses or above your 7. Comma, second 3. Once again, this is for TI-83 users. TI-84s, you go down, push the down button until you're at the L2 location and push second 3, and it'll give you an L2, and it'll replace the, it'll replace the L2 with an L3. So for TI-83s, L1, comma, L3, and hit enter. It calculates an equation between those two tables, basically, or columns, I should say. So there we go. A value in this case, 0.079, and B value 1.66 roughly. So now we want to go to Y equals. This is for Y number 2. On Y number 2, we now press bars right underneath your arrow keypad or next to your clear button. And we want to graph it by going to statistics, option 5. Hit enter. Go to the right to EQ or reg EQ, option 1, and hit enter. And it copies it again. So now you should have 2 equations. We can now go to the graph, and now we can see the line of best fits. So we have both lines of best fits for men's and women's try rates. Or I should say vice versa, women's and men's try rates, depending on the case. If you hit trace, this allows you to move along the dots, left or right. But if I push up or down, it switches to my equations. Right now I'm on equation 2 because at the top it says y2 equals. If you have a T84, it probably just says y2. Or some T83s also have the same. If I push up again, it switches to Y1. And I can move left or right on this one, or enter X value such as 0, and it might give me an error. Yep, got an error. So I'll hit quit and just go to graph again, and now I can see it again, and hit trace for the options. So this is a quick rundown of your calculator and how to use it.